Good evening. My name is Sharon Farmer, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of the Northampton area, whose membership includes residents of Holyoke. The League of Women Voters, which has chapters all over the United States, is a nonpartisan political organization for women and men, which encourages informed and active participation in government. This forum, which is co-sponsored by the League of Women Voters of the Northampton area and by the Daily Hampshire Gazette, is part of our ongoing voter education efforts to help voters make informed decisions at the upcoming election on November 2nd. We hope that over the course of the program, you will learn more about Holyoke's 11 candidates for our 6 at-large city council positions and what they hope to do for Holyoke. I will now introduce our moderator, Lee Bona, of the League of Women Voters of Worcester. Ms. Bona has been a member of the Worcester Area League of Women Voters for 23 years and has served as Legislative Action, Media Development, and Voter Services Chair, Vice President, and 8 years in local league as local league president. During that time, she initiated what is now a statewide league presence at every naturalization ceremony held in the Commonwealth. Lee has recently completed 4 years serving on the State Board of Directors, where she chaired the Massachusetts Voter Services Committee. She's retired now from league governance, but still moderates forums such as this one and debates and mentors new moderators. Welcome, Lee.
Thank you, and let me say welcome, especially to our candidates here. Candidates are what make democracy work. Having a little trouble with the dust up here, but we'll work it out. For our viewers, I want to start by introducing you and some of the ground rules that we will use here. First, to my left, let me introduce Dan Crowley. Dan, raise your hand. Managing editor of the Daily Hampshire Gazette. Dan will be asking approximately half the questions here this evening, and I'll ask the other half. Dan, if you'd say a few words, just an introduction.
Sure. Thank you for having me here. The Gazette has a long history working with the League of Women Voters, sponsoring these types of events, and we're happy to be here. It's a great field of candidates, and we look forward to a spirited forum tonight.
Okay, thanks. Next, the 11 candidates for Holyoke's 6 at-large city council positions in alphabetical order. Please at least raise your hand, okay, when I say your name. Mark Chattel, Paula Ferrario, Howard Graney, Kevin Jourdain, Jennifer Keat, James Leahy, Jose Luis Maldonado Velez, Joseph Mcgivern, Tessa Murphy Ramboletti, Israel Rivera, and Peter Tallman. Again, thank you for being here. For your for your sake here tonight and your mass, Holyoke mandates that all forum participants wear masks except when you're speaking. So you can take them off, say what you want to say, and then when we move on, put it back. Timing is going to be important. You candidates will have 1 minute for an opening statement. You will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. With the exception of a few sort of rapid fire lightning yes or no questions, you'll have 1 minute to answer each question. You all had advance notice in an email or letter of that. Opening statements will be made in alphabetical order based on the candidate's last name. Closing statements will be made in reverse alphabetical order. Okay? So we start with Mr. Chappelle and we end with Mr. Tolman, and then we start with Mr. Tolman and end with Mr. Chappelle. We will also change the order in which the candidates are asked questions. For example, we'll start with Mr. Chappelle for opening statements. Then I will ask Ms. Ferrario the first question. For question 2, I will ask Mr. Graney, and on and on. So we'll work down the line. Everybody gets a fair chance of, saying things first. Each question will be addressed to all candidates. All questions, whether asked by Dan or myself, have been screened and sorted to eliminate redundancy and to assure that they are appropriate and relevant to the position of at-large candidate. And I believe Dan and Sharon sat down and went over everything themselves. So, timekeeper is sitting in the first row. Raise your hand or your paddle. When there's a half-minute left on your speaking time, the timekeeper will hold up a card that says 30 seconds, indicating you have 30 seconds to finish your answer. At 15 seconds, the timekeeper will hold up a yellow card. It says 15 seconds. Wrap up at that point, or at least start to, because when you see the stop card, I'm going to interrupt you and say thank you and move on to the next person. We have very little time here tonight, so we can't let people go over. You all, are very mature people. I've heard no complaints about any of you. So personal references about other candidates, out of order. They waste time. And frankly, they reflect very poorly on candidates. I've seen them backfire more times than not at the ballot. So you have a limited time. You want to tell the public about your position on an issue or anything that you want to share regarding an issue, but you don't want to squander your time, pointing at someone else. Please note the cameras at the back of the auditorium, on the sides, on the front. This forum is being broadcast live on Channel 12, and it's going to be available for streaming on Holyoke Media tomorrow. The cable company contributes a time certain for these events, and we have no choice. We are at their mercy. It's like TV. When the director says start, we start. And when he says end, we end. So you don't want to be missing out on time. It's a virtual event. I probably don't even need to say this to you. There really are very few people here in the audience, but we've already muted everybody on Facebook and, and the Cablevision. But if you have a phone or anything else that might ping or play music or beep, or ring, please turn it off. No literature allowed in the hall, although there was request for that, because if the camera swings and a picture is taken, we don't want to be seen as favoring one candidate over another. And I'll end just by saying this. If Dan or I make a mistake, mispronounce your name, skip a name or a turn, don't hesitate to let us know. He's a newspaper editor. I'm an attorney. We've all lived through worse. So, just raise your hand or say, you've butchered my name 3 times, please. Please try harder. All right, so now we will begin with the candidates' opening statements. You have 1 minute each, and we begin with Mr. Chappelle.
Okay, good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. I just want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting, Holyoke High School for having us here. The Hampshire Gazette is also a sponsor, and I also want to thank every single candidate here. It's a pleasure to be on the stage with every candidate here. So a little just about myself, very briefly. I'm brand new at this. I'm a lifelong city resident here in Holyoke, proud graduate of Holyoke High School, attended all public schools, except for kindergarten. I went to Sacred Heart. And so I'm running, basically, I want to be a new voice on the city council. And I would like to, so running at large, you're representing all 7 wards, and I want to represent every single ward and candidate and residents. Thank you.
Ms. Ferrario?
Yes, thank you to the League of Women Voters for having us here tonight. My name is Paola Ferrario. I'm actually the only candidate on this panel that was not born and raised in Holyoke. I was born in Italy in 1963, and when I was 18, I left for the United States on a Hollywood dream. I was a gay kid in Italy, and there was no place for me where I was growing up. So I like to talk about it as a story of a little bit of privilege and a lot of courage. Bottom line, I belong to a group of people that in the past 15 and 20 years moved here. They're very rooted in the community. They have good education, and they really want the city to make good decisions to go into the 21st century. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Graney?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Holyoke. I also would like to thank the League of Women Voters, the Hampshire Gazette, and my fellow candidates here on the dais. Just a brief synopsis of my life. I'm a husband, a father, and grandfather of 4. I've lived in Holyoke all my life. I'm a retired educator in the Holyoke public school system. I believe that trust, loyalty, commitment is one of the most important ideals of public service, and I intend to hold up those ideals if I am reelected to this position as City Councilor at large in very trying times for our community and our country, and I would appreciate your vote greatly in the November election. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.
Thank you. Mr. Jourdain?
Yes, thank you. My name is Kevin Jourdain, and it is a pleasure to be here with all of you this evening. I want to thank the sponsors and my fellow candidates. First off, I'd like to say I'm a devoted husband and father of 3 children. I have served for 27 years in city and state finance leadership here in the city of Holyoke, formerly as a city councilor for 24 years, including 6 years as the city council president. I am a lifelong Holyoker. I have served in finance leadership for numerous multi-billion-dollar companies. I am an attorney. I'm very experienced and qualified to deserve your vote. When I was in office, I had 100% attendance, and I worked very hard, tirelessly. No one will work harder for you in this position, and on November 2nd, I would greatly appreciate one of your 6 votes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Keat?
Hi, good evening. My name is Jennifer Keat, and I'd like to first say thank you to the League of Women Voters and the Daily Hampshire Gazette for sponsoring this event this evening, and Holyoke Media for being here. This is my first time running for office. I do a lot of work behind the scenes. I never expected myself to be a candidate, yet here I am. I was born and raised in Holyoke. I'm a happily married mom of 3. I have an education where I have an associate's from HCC, a bachelor's from Westfield State in political science. So entering the realm of politics is within my wheelhouse. I'm looking to bring honesty, equity, and reliability to our city council, and I'm excited for the opportunity to represent the citizens of Holyoke.
Thank you. Mr. Leahy?
Yes, good evening. I'd like to thank everybody that sponsored this event tonight. It's a great thing to bring some communication back to our voters. I wish we had more of that. My name is James Leahy. I'm the 5th person on the ballot for City Council. I respectfully ask everybody to cast one of your votes for me. Once again, James Leahy, 5th on the ballot. I'm continuing to run for election because I think Holyoke needs leadership more at this time than it ever has in the past. We're coming off kind of a turbulent 10 years or so, and I think that we need leadership more now. Experienced leadership, people that know how to cut the budget and how to work well with other people. Thank you.
Mr. Maldonado Velez?
thank everyone for tonight. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and the Hampshire Gazette for putting on this very important forum. Thank you, Lee, for moderating tonight. Holyoke Media for providing access to our residents, very important. Holyoke Public Schools, and thank you to my fellow candidates for all showing up tonight and answering some questions for our community. My name is Jose Luis Maldonado Velez. I am born and raised here in Holyoke, born in Providence, raised in the Flats, a product of the Holyoke public school systems, and was afforded the privilege of making it out and getting a degree at a private institution in sociology, business administration, and mathematics. My biggest reasons for running is to provide something different to the status quo. I think it's time in a city that is 58% Latino that there are more representatives of us on the council. I'm looking forward to everyone's answers tonight and really hopefully getting your vote on Tuesday, November 2nd. Thank you.
Mr. Mcgivern.
Thank you, Lee, and a profound thank you to the League of Women Voters of the greater Northampton, Holyoke area, the Daily Hampshire Gazette, Holyoke Media for broadcasting this, and it's very, very great to be here at Holyoke High School to be able to talk about the issues with all these wonderful candidates. My name is Joe Mcgivern. I've served on the City Council for 42 years, but I qualify that. Number one, I am not the oldest person on the City Council, and number two, I started at a very young age. But I've enjoyed every moment of it because I've worked with some wonderful people who care about the City of Holyoke. I believe that the independent look at the issues is what our voters and what our residents deserve, and I've offered that over my tenure and over my experience. We need to look at all three sides of every issue. We need to be prepared to make the correct decision when it comes time to say yes or no. And I look forward to doing that, and I hope I can demonstrate that with the answers to the questions this evening. Thank you.
Ms. Murphy Ramboletti.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for having us tonight, and to everyone that helped put this event on, and our fellow candidates here on the stage. My name is Tessa Murphy Ramboletti. I am a graduate of the Holyoke Public Schools, and I have been running a nonprofit that helps underrepresented individuals grow and start their businesses. I've also actually worked in City Hall for about 5 years. And so all of these experiences really taught me a lot about the way our government works and what does not work. And that's what's really inspired me to run for city council at large, so that our residents can have city councilors who are professional, who want to work together, who are willing to be transparent, and so that our residents can get the quality city services that they deserve. And so thank you all for being here tonight, and I look forward to our discussion.
Mr. Rivera.
Hello. My name is Israel Rivera. I want to thank the League of Women Voters, my fellow candidates that are also running for City Council at large here, and as well as all the viewers that are at home watching us. So quick, brief summary of why I'm running and who I am. Again, my name is Israel Rivera. I was not born in Holyoke. I was born in Gary, Indiana, a fellow mill city, more of a steel mill city versus a paper mill city, but faces the same struggles. I moved here, we moved to Puerto Rico, and then from Puerto Rico we moved here when I was about 3 to 4 years old. I attended the Holyoke Public Schools. I worked at the Holyoke Boys and Girls Club for a very long time, and I have organized a variety of different community events throughout the city. I want to bring something different to the council, something that is probably hasn't seen for a long time, and that is on the ground boots work with actual councilors, not just policy making. Let's organize coalitions. Let's organize groups that are actually going to make progress within our community.
Mr. Tallman.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and I'd like to thank the Northampton Area League of Women Voters and the Daily Hampshire Gazette for putting this together, and Holyoke Media, and for the residents at home that are watching this debate tonight, this forum. My name is Peter Tallman. I'm a member of the City Council for the past 23 years. I have really been a person that has tried to look at every issue, try to be involved in what's going on in the city. I'm a member of the Finance Committee and the Development and Government Relations Committee. I enjoy the work that gets done by the city. We all have to work together collectively. I'm a product of the Holyoke Public Schools. I graduated Holyoke Catholic High School. I'm a 37-year veteran of the U.S. Postal Service as a letter carrier, and I'm a military veteran serving in the U.S. Army back in the 70s, and a retired member of the Air National Guard over here at Barnes. in Westfield, Mass. I want to continue the work that I've been doing for the past 23 years for the citizens of Holyoke. I want to be accountable to each resident of the city and work for what's best of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to move on to question 1, and we'll start with Ms. Ferrario. What are the most important issues facing Holyoke, and how might you address them?
Thank you. And first of all, apologies to Mr. Rivera. So I'm not the only person that was not born in Holyoke, but Mr. Rivera is such an intrinsic part of our society that I just assume he was born here. So the important issue, I often say, Holyoke is a city that is complex. Therefore, the solutions that have to be found are complicated, and it takes community, it takes energy. But what is very important is we are facing school in receivership. That's important, and it's important because we have a lot of children. Our patrimony, which is patrimony, green patrimony, park, reservoir, and our architectural patrimony, and a good idea to resolve the city plan that works for all. But in order to do this, we have to do it together. Holyoke is divided, and we have to come together in dialogue. Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Graham, same question. What are the most important issues facing Holyoke?
Well, I think one of the most important issues is communication. We need to promote our city better. I think that we need to get out into the media. I think we need to make a concentrated effort to promote our Volleyball Hall of Fame, our assets, our parks, our reservoirs. I believe that these are important assets that we should be able to share with everybody. I also believe that a very important issue is the high commercial tax rate. We have one of the highest commercial tax rates in the state, and I believe that needs to be lowered to attract more businesses to the community, and that would help greatly with our tax base and our services to the community as we move forward to promote Holyoke. Thank you.
Mr. Jourdain.
Yes, thank you. I first think the number one issue facing the city of Holyoke is bringing on additional jobs and economic development into the community. That would be first and foremost. Hand in hand with that is keeping Holyoke an affordable place to live. I'm very concerned that the very cost of living in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has gotten to such a point that we're squeezing out the middle class and in particular lower income classes. And there has to be a place where everybody can live in Massachusetts. And Holyoke is a community that has embraced people who are not of means. And I want to make sure that we do that. I want to make sure that we protect our seniors, many of whom speak to me. They tell me, Kevin, I'm on Social Security. My house is paid for, but I can't continue to pay for these type of increases. The other two big issues is stopping the gas moratorium and fixing that situation. The fourth important issue is improving our image and the cleanliness of this community. Those are the big four issues as I see them over the next 2 years. Thank you.
Ms. Keat.
My platform is based on 4 different issues that I've identified as being very important to the quality of life here in Holyoke. First and foremost is economic development. We need to provide more housing. We need more housing choices. We need to expand home ownership. We also need to support and attract small businesses. As mentioned before, our tax rate is one of the highest in the Commonwealth. I also believe that we need to address the issue of our schools being in the state's hands. I did serve on the local stakeholders group, so I'm very familiar with the process of the schools. I also think that public health needs to be addressed. We have a houseless crisis, an opioid crisis, and COVID is raging. So all of those things need to be addressed by fully supporting our public health department. And lastly, but not least, as Mr. Graney alluded to, communication. Holyoke has been struggling to communicate between its elected officials and the elected, or the citizens of Holyoke, and between our departments, and we need to bridge that gap.
Mr. Leahy.
Yes, thank you. Good question, and I'm not going to reiterate what everybody else said because everybody else had some good ideas as well. But I think that one of the things we have to do is getting City Hall back in order. I want to thank Councilor, member who became an acting mayor, Terry Murphy, for stepping up and taking on the role as acting mayor, and he's done a fantastic job. But now that he's going to be ending, we're going to have a new mayor, and we need to have City Hall step up its game quite a bit. But I also, like others, I want to make sure that we keep Holyoke affordable for all. If you look at the median age, I think the median age is 35 for men and 36 for females. We have to make sure that these middle-class people have job opportunities and have different opportunities for their children. We have to bring people into City Holyoke and not have people leave. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Maldonado, Velez.
So when I think of what issues our city faces, depending on which ward you're knocking the door on, they'll give you a different answer. But there are some commonalities between the answers. So my platform is really rebuilding or upgrading our technology, rebuilding our infrastructure, and bringing our city more together through different programmings and whatnot. So I believe those are 3 ways to address some of the issues. So for example, trash is a huge issue. So when we don't have upgraded trucks, for example, to make the things more efficient, then that's going to run into an issue with trash. When we don't have an infrastructure where business owners, new business owners, and those that are currently here can easily apply for permits and licenses right on our city website, that also adds on to the annoyances at City Hall. And then finally, we're a divided city, even though the Puerto Rican population has been here since the 70s. I think it's time to move beyond that and realize that we are all in the city together, and the only way that we're going to be able to improve our city is by doing it together as one community.
Mr. Mcgivern.
Thank you, Lee. When you look at city government, the city council with the mayor are responsible for the services that our municipality needs and is provided by government. We oversee many departments, schools for education, police, fire for public safety, Parks and Rec for good times, for passive recreations and athletic events. We are responsible for a number of different departments that provide services. But the biggest issue that we face and that we need to do as government is to make sure these services are there to help people to break the poverty cycle. We have the lowest income per capita in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and yet we have jobs to offer. I agree economic development is important, but we have to connect the people in the city of Holyoke with those jobs, beginning with education, beginning with the skills that they need to take on good paying jobs, and beginning with showing them that the way to break the poverty cycle is to find that good job.
Mrs. Murphy Ramboletti.
Thank you. There are a lot of issues that are currently facing our city. However, the ones that I believe are the most important and directly impacted by the City Council includes our municipal finances. The city needs a chief financial officer, and it's something that the state has been telling us that we should do since 2004. We also really need to streamline our permitting process and improve the way that we do business. I've seen this firsthand with many of the entrepreneurs who have gone through my program. And lastly, we really need to modernize City Hall. People should be feeling comfortable walking in through City Hall. They should know where they're going. They should feel comfortable asking officials for questions and getting answers, and it shouldn't take a long time for people to get the answers that they deserve. All of these reasons are why I'm running on November 2nd. Thank you.
Mr. Revere.
Hello, thank you. I guess for me, there's a lot of issues, but the major issue that stands out to me, which encapsulates a lot of the issues, is quality of life. A lot of residents and taxpayers pay a good portion of their money, as well as small businesses, to expect the services to run efficiently and effectively. We should not be affected by anything that is happening at City Hall or within city government at all. So some of the things of quality of life for me are public safety, education, public health, economic development, and infrastructure. We should be investing in our parks and youth programming. Education, we should be investing in career development for parents and community members throughout the community. And overall, I feel that us as a community or as city councilors need to lead by example, and that's getting out there and actually trying to organize these by creating strategic plans and working with other department heads overall.
Mr. Tallman.
Thank you. I think the biggest issue today that's facing Holyoke is bringing in business to our community, trying to provide the workers for those businesses, making the process of having a business in Holyoke a little bit easier, streamlining the permitting process in our community. I believe that in the schools, possibly get vocational training for our students to try to get the jobs that can fit into some of these positions in these buildings that really could use them. Public safety, I think, is important. How do we keep our cities safe? How do we provide for safety among our residents? The police department, the fire department, do they have the right equipment? Do we support that buying of the equipment that they need on a regular basis? Also, I think we have to take care of our employees. You know, for a while they were losing employees, leaving to other communities because it was a bigger salary. I think it's important that we take care of our employees so that they'll stay here and give them a fair salary, and that we'll be able to do that in the future.
Mr. Shuttell.
Okay. Yes, thank you. So one of the things I've enjoyed most during this campaign is walking from neighborhood to neighborhood and meeting with the businesses. So one of their biggest concerns is they want to stay here in Holyoke, but the tax rate, commercial rate here in Holyoke. They want to stay here, but their commercial rate here in Holyoke is high right now, so we got to do a job to work with that and try to get that to a better rate. Also, public safety is very big. We need to have every resident here feel safe, and our police department does an outstanding job with that. And working with the residents with that is great. I like another thing is keeping the park safe for the children here. We need a safe environment for our children to go to in every neighborhood. And that would be also, that's one of the safety things we need to do here. Thank you.
And now Dan will, excuse me, pose the second question, and you will start with Mr. Graney.
Okay, thanks. Earlier this year, the city began Spanish language interpretation for full city council meetings for the first time. But for many city services, translation interpretation services don't exist, despite advocacy for them over the years. What will you do to continue to improve the accessibility of city government to all of the city's residents?
Well, I was one of the councilors who supported the instituting of Spanish language being on the television set so that our Spanish-speaking residents could see and understand what was going on in real time at the city council. I also believe we should utilize the resources that we have, the translators that we have working in the Holyoke Public Schools, to continue to work with the Spanish population to increase their participation in the community. Also, many years ago, when the first Spanish residents came to Holyoke, I worked to help implement bilingual education in the school system. And one of the major problems that some of the youngsters had was not being able to communicate in a language. So I went to the Registry of Motor Vehicles, got a driver's education book, and we worked from that premise to go ahead and promote the Spanish language so that the young people could get their driver's licenses. Those are some of the many things that we could continue to do, outreach to the community, and continue to work with them. Thank you.
Mr. Jourdain.
Yes, thank you. I think your question is broader than just the notion of what we're doing. This is a great and noble thing that we're doing in terms of translation services, but I think it goes to the bigger question of what we're doing to give public access to government. And the first thing I would like to point out is when I was city council president, one of the first rules that we changed with the leadership of Councilor Vega at the time was to create a public comment period before all the city council meetings. That was really unheard of. And I'm very proud of the fact that we did that when I became president of the city council. I think it's also what we need to do is really break down the barriers between government and the citizens generally. I've supported having office hours for the department heads so that when you actually go there, you know that they're there, you can schedule an opportunity to speak with them. And we really also need to act on the initiatives that we did back in the early 90s about printing the ballot in both languages, which was important. But we also need to do that for a number of the permits and other documents that are important for government. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Keat?
Hi. First, I'd like to say that I'm really excited that our Holyoke City Council has finally started translating our meetings. Now we just need to translate the minutes so that everybody can follow up behind, after the meetings and not necessarily have to watch the videos. I do speak Spanish conversationally, being born and raised here in Holyoke. I've picked up some just from having friends and being around town. I've also studied the Spanish language for many years in school. It's a travesty that here in town we have, more than 50% of our population is Latino, and we still are unable to effectively communicate with them in their native language. So I would build on all of the aforementioned. We've talked about in City Hall, we need to have more people that speak Spanish and English fluently. I know that looking at a lot of the job openings that have come up, that is a preference, and I think that we need to lean on that a little bit more and have more Spanish speakers.
Thank you. Mr. Leahy?
Yes, thank you. Lee, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Is this being translated in Spanish tonight?
Northampton League, are you? No.
It's not. That's probably one of our first steps. When we have a public debate, a public forum like this, this should be translated into Spanish, so the good people of the city of Holyoke can watch us, listen to our answers, our questions, and that sort of thing. I really wish tonight was translated into Spanish, but having said that, I'll talk about what I have already done. What I've already done was I created one of the largest forums called Hello Holyoke on Facebook. And what we do is we publish events, we publish meetings, whether it's in Spanish or English. We allow everybody to put up any sort of nonprofit type of thing. So I can fall back into what I've already done, is setting up the largest forum that the city's ever seen. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Maldonado Velez.
Yep. Thank you for the question. First of all, I would say I appreciate the City Council finally translating our meetings into Spanish. I think one thing we're missing, though, is being able for the City Council to understand a Spanish speaker coming into a meeting and talking with them. So what's missing is a translation from Spanish into English to make sure that the communication is going both ways, not the City Council talking to the residents, but having an actual conversation between both. With that said, I also speak Spanish, so hablo español, era mi primer idioma, y yo creo que es importante tener a alguien ahí que sea consejero que pueda hablar el idioma de la gente de la comunidad. Ahora, puedo hablar inglés, puedo hablar español, y creo que hay diferentes formas de comunicarse como humano, pero hablar la misma lengua, la misma lengua de la mayoría de la gente de la ciudad es lo más importante.
Ms. Mcgivern.
Thank you, Lee. I'm probably one of the worst candidates to address this question. The good news is I come from a family. My wife, Jenny, not only speaks English, she actually is Lebanese and was born and raised, her first language was Arabic, and she went to college and her degree is in Spanish. So my trilingual life is far ahead of me because I'm still trying to learn the language of English. And sometimes I joke about that because sometimes I have trouble expressing myself. But I do believe in communication. I do believe in language as being a big part of it. My ancestors in Ireland, they were not allowed to speak Gaelic. When they came over to this country, they lost their language. And I understand the importance in working in the Holyoke District Court to be able to communicate with everyone at their comfort level. And that's what we needed to do more of. We interpret the language on our broadcasts. What we need to do is translate the minutes so that everybody can understand what we're doing and what we did.
Ms. Murphy Ramboletti.
Thank you. I really appreciate this question because I, a couple years ago, was motivated to start Western Massachusetts' first Spanish language business accelerator, entirely done in Spanish, and I can just say it's really opened up a lot of possibilities for folks. I believe the question was also focusing on how are we going to make the City Council more connected to the community. And so when I interned in Mayor Sullivan's office when I was in college, we regularly hosted neighborhood meetings, And I don't really think we have had those in a while, so I'd love to bring those back. I'd love to bring open office hours and work with different ward counselors to host some of these meetings at businesses and just give folks an opportunity to be heard, to air their concerns, let us know where there's some challenges, and really just make sure that people are communicated to in all forms, whether that's print or email or both. Thank you.
Mr. Revere.
Hello. Hello? Okay. This question to me is very important because I kind of asked this question, I believe, when I was like in 7th grade. I had asked why city council was never translated in Spanish because of one of my mother's friends, like, she couldn't really understand any of the stuff that was going on at the time, and this was years ago. So for me, the idea that now, when I'm 35 years old, the council has decided to do this, thank you, but it's taken a very long time, right? Our population has been growing over the time, and we in Holyoke are actually a transient population, so we should be dedicating some dollars to actually figuring out how we're gonna deal with translation, because if Afghan refugees come to Holyoke, then what happens?
Thank you. Mr. Tallman.
Thank you. This is an issue I think that the City Council has been working on for a number of years, and because of the cost was put off, because it does cost to have translators at our meetings. I think it's important that we do this and continue to open up City Hall, try to get employees, bilingual employees in different departments. I think it's important that we try to get maybe the minutes and even some of the other committee meetings translated into Spanish. We have to have the community engaged in what's going on. If they can't understand what we're doing, it's difficult for them to get engaged in the community. I'm married to a Latino woman who worked in the district court system here in Holyoke for almost 40 years, and she was bilingual, and she actually helped the residents and people coming in that needed help. And I think it's important that anybody that has 2 languages, it's very beneficial. I wish I'd taken Spanish. I do understand a lot. I can do small conversation in Spanish, but I think it's important to have 2 languages under your belt. Thank you.
Mr. Shurtell.
Okay. Yes, thank you. I think it's wonderful that it's finally translation now for the city council meetings. I also would like during the public comment that there are people, if they want to go in and speak the Spanish, and if there's some type of translation during public comment segment of the city council meeting. Also, I'm also wonderful to hear now that I believe it's Medcalf School in Ian White, they have the Spanish programs for young children here. So that's going to be great that our children are going to be learning that language. And also for every department to be able to, if someone comes off the street and has a question, that they are not afraid to ask the questions, and there'll be a translator there for them. Thank you.
Ms. Ferrario.
Thank you. So it's great that now City Council meeting have translator, but let me make something very clear. It's not a great and noble thing to do. It's the right thing to do. Point. That's it. The other thing is, it's also great that it's a city that is for a very large part bilingual. That's a wonderful thing. In terms of making everything bilingual, it's just logistic and money. And say we have to do it, and again, catching us like tonight and saying, oh, we didn't do this, let's do it. Switzerland speaks 4 languages, and we have sign in all language. Y tengo que pedir, me disculpo con la gente latina, porque hasta ahora estoy traduciendo mi sitio en español y voy a terminar este fin de semana y va a estar listo. Entonces, gracias.
Thank you. Okay, question 3 is for me. And I will now ask you 5 lightning-type questions. You just need to answer for or against for each one. We'll start with Mr. Jourdain. Were you for or against approving the bond to pay for 2 new middle schools?
Very vocally against.
Okay, next.
I'm against building 2 new middle schools, yes.
Mr. Leahy?
Yes, I was for it, and I would certainly like to see one new one come up.
Mr. Maldonado?
I was for it when I voted for it.
Mr. McGivern?
I was for it if the state of Massachusetts came through with the 80%, 90% reimbursement, which should be, and we should and deserve and expect.
Ms. Murphy Ramboletti?
I was in favor.
Mr. Rivera?
I was also in favor.
Mr. Tallman?
I was for it.
Mr. Chattel?
I was against it.
Ms. Ferrario?
I was not in favor of the 2 schools. It felt like a Uber's plan. I'm committed to have a good school, good in middle school environment for our kids in the future.
Okay. Ms.
Mr. Graney. Forgot Mr.
Oh,
Graney.
I'm sorry.
I was against it because I thought it was fiscally irresponsible.
Okay, Ms. Keat. Are you for or against building a Dunkin' Donuts on Route 141 near Mount Tom State Park?
That's a good one.
I'm against it.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm against it.
Okay. Mr. Leahy?
I think I'm going to be for it, but I haven't seen the plans and I haven't seen the data, so I can't really give you a yes or no answer without knowing all the information and, you know, how many cars drive by it, how many cars will be affected, that sort of thing. I always do my due diligence before I do any vote.
Mr. Maldonado Velez?
I'm against it, not because I don't drink Dunkin' coffee, but because we don't need a 6th Dunkin' Donut in our city.
Okay, can we keep this to
Yes, sir.
yay or nay? Mr. McGivern?
It's a little bit too late. I'm in favor of economic development and new business, and I think it can be done if the Commonwealth comes to a common sense about not trying to protect copperhead snakes on the mountain, crossing a road which they will never cross.
Ms. Murphy Ramboletti?
I'm going to follow the rules. I'm going to say for, but please reach out to me and ask me why.
Mr. Rivera?
Mr. Rivera, you said? Okay, I'm simply going to say no.
Mr. Tallman?
Not for it.
Oh, I'm sorry, not for it.
I am for it.
Mr. Chattel?
I am for it.
Ms. Ferrario?
I'm against it, and I'm on record. I spoke in front of the planning board about it. To me, it's bad business, and it's an ecological disaster.
Mr. Greenie?
I'm absolutely for it.
Mr. Jourdain?
No.
Okay. Mr. Leahy, we'll start with you. Are you for or against zoning to allow for chickens on most residential properties?
I'm sorry, for what?
Chickens.
Oh, chickens? Well, I'm for it in logical places.
Mr. Maldonado Velez?
I am for it.
Mr. McGivern?
Against it outright.
Ms. Murphy Ramboletti?
For.
Mr. Rivera?
Totally for it.
Mr. Tallman?
For it.
Mr. Chattel?
Against it, only in where it's resident, where it needs to be.
Ms. Ferrario?
At the moment, I'm against it, but I can be persuaded if the ordinance is well done.
Mr. Graney?
Against, we have an ordinance on that matter already.
Mr. Jourdain?
I'm, as a general rule, against it, but we do allow it by special permit, and that is the current law, and I do support that law. So if allowed by special permit, correct.
Ms. Keat?
Yes, I'm for it.
Okay. Mr. Maldonado Velez, we'll start with you. Are you for or against establishing a homeless shelter in Holyoke?
I am for it.
Mr. Mcgivern?
I'm in favor.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand you, sir.
I'm in favor.
Okay. Ms. Murphy Ramboletti?
I'm in favor.
Mr. Rivera?
I am also in favor.
Mr. Tallman?
Definitely in favor.
Mr. Chattel?
In favor.
Ms. Ferrario?
I'm in favor, and I call on all artists in Holyoke. I would like to see a shelter with an art center below it.
Mr. Jourdain?
Oh, you missed Mr. Graney again.
Mr. Graney?
Forgot Mr.
I
Green.
keep skipping you.
I know. What
I
did
owe
I
you
do?
top
What
shelf.
did I do?
Top shelf.
I'm
you know?
I'm definitely for a homeless shelter.
Mr. Graney.
No, now it's Mr. Jordan.
Oh, he answered.
Yeah, Mr.
Okay,
Jordan.
Mr. Jordan.
Yes, I'm absolutely in favor. I used to run a homeless shelter in Holyoke, and by the way, we already have homeless shelters in Holyoke, so yes, most in favor.
Ms. Kate.
Yes, I am in favor.
Mr. Leahy.
Yes, I was going to say the same thing, that we do have homeless shelters now. I want to make sure it's done right. I'm in favor of it and making sure it's in the right place. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mcgivern. We'll start with you. Are you for or against an independent assessment of Holyoke's Police Department?
I'm against.
Ms. Murphy Ramboletti?
I support.
Mr. Rivera?
I wholeheartedly support.
Mr. Tolman?
I'm for it.
Mr. Chattel?
I'm against it.
Ms. Ferrario?
I'm for it.
Mr. Graney?
I'm against it.
Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
Ms. Key?
Yes.
Mr. Leahy?
I'm against it.
Mr. Maldonado Velez?
I'm in favor of it.
Okay. Now we have question 4, and that belongs to Dan.
Thank you.
And we start with Ms. Key.
Ms. Keat, what areas or departments in city government do you see as lacking most in resources to effectively do its job? With some examples, if you can. And where would you prioritize providing more resources in city government?
This is for me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. I would actually say that one of the departments that I've noticed from attending the city council meetings over the last year is that our DPW is lacking in resources. We need to make sure that we provide them with enough monetary support that they're able to complete their duties, even when they do have people that are out on various medical leaves, which is what occurred when our trash pickup was running behind. We have a DPW that runs on the bare minimum, and I think that that service is really important to the city of Holyoke and the citizens of Holyoke. And so I would certainly look around in our budget and see where we would be able to move some money so that we could kind of strengthen our DPW's budget.
Mr. Leahy?
Thank you. There's a few of them. One of them is the school department, where I think that we, as City of Holyoke, has zero control, but yet it's been 6 years and I don't see any benchmarks that we're making. I also think that we, as elected officials, have no control of the money that they're spending. I also am very concerned about our law department. Over the course 4 or 5 years, the law department has been decimated. We don't have enough attorneys to handle the amount of cases we have, and I also think that to keep the crime rate down, we have to have full funding in the police department. Thank you.
Mr. Maldonado Velez?
So based on the conversations I've had with people from the flats all the way up to Smith's Ferry, I would say that DPW is our biggest opportunity as far as making sure that we're funding them correctly and making sure that they have the technology and the equipment that they need in order to make sure that our trash is being collected properly, that recycling is happening, and that they're able to communicate with the citizens and the residents with what's happening, what's going on with the department. Yeah.
Mr. Mcgivern?
Thank you, Lee, and I apologize for bending the rules on your rapid questions, but I think the rule should be in any rapid questions, we should have the amount of time it takes to ask the question, but it was fun. There's no question in my mind, we fully fund the police department, fire department, and the public schools, thanks to Chapter 70 and an influx of federal dollars, are in good shape. The DPW is the department that needs the most financial resources and help that the city can give it. It's our infrastructure, it's our streets, our sidewalks, our trash pickup. It's everything that we look when we walk out of this building, the DPW is responsible for. And yet we tend to give it every dollar we have available, but when we don't have those available dollars, the DPW gets short out. And we do need to work much harder in making sure the resources are there to protect our infrastructure.
Ms. Murphy Ramboletti?
Thank you. I will also agree that DPW is systemically underfunded. I also believe that the building department and the Board of Health could really benefit from additional inspectors. Those are some of the quality of life issues that don't get addressed when there's not enough resources available. And what I've seen from working at City Hall is that we lose really great employees because we don't pay them what they're worth. And that has a direct impact on your day-to-day city services. So we need to trust city employees, we need to support them, and we also need to fully fund the departments of our city that truly can impact not just what's happening now, but for years to come. And so that's why I'm really in support of making sure that the DPW, the building department, the Board of Health, these are the places that really need our support.
Thank you. Mr. Rivera.
I'm going to echo what everyone else is saying with regards to the DPW needing more funding. I am currently the chair of the Parks and Recs department as well. And our maintenance department is actually managed by the DPW department. So our grass doesn't get cut on time, right? Our lines for baseball games are not lined when they needed to be lined, or for softball games. I'm a coach and I'm on the board of directors for Holyoke Youth Softball. I am also the chair, so like it's also comes like full circle for me, and I see it every day. We need to try to get as much funding as we can to both the DPW and Parks and Recs department so that we could improve our quality of life, which could help deter the crime rate, because we will have kids playing in the parks instead of other people using the parks for things they should not be doing.
Thank you. Mr. Tallman.
Thank you for that question. I think it's important to let people know, let the public know with some of our departments that are understaffed, and as everybody said here earlier, is the DPW. Last year was a tough year with COVID, and we had a lot of employees that were out sick because of COVID. You know, if one person gets it, you could affect two others. So the trash didn't get picked up, the recycling didn't get picked up. Sometimes the yard waste was out there for 2-3 weeks. Trying to keep our employees, as I said, went back to employees, try to take care of our employees. How can we keep them safe, and how can we, make it better for them? We're purchasing a couple trash trucks that will have the buckets to lift up the trash into the truck. Will make it easier for them. Also, I think the building department can use some extra help too. It's important that with a lot of our vacant buildings to have people go out there to board them up and to inspect them on a regular basis. But it goes back to taking care of our employees. If we take care of our employees, they'll take care of the job that we have for them to do throughout the city. Thank you.
Mr. Shutdown.
Yes, I agree. It is the DPW is one of them. There are many, but DPW for sure. We need to find out why they are running a shorthanded staff. If it's salary pay, if they're losing the workers to other cities and towns, I believe that might be a possibility. They're leaving for a higher pay to go to another community. We need to address that because it's very important. That's one of the things I'm hearing from the residents is, the trash pickups and all that with the sidewalks, and we got to make sure the DPW is fully staffed. Thank you.
Ms. Ferrario.
I think, the DPW is the most evident. We see it. We don't get the trash picked up. So it's easy to say, let's give more money to the DPW. But, as the vice chair of the Historical Commission, I would like to bring the attention to our planning department. It's our planning department that writes grant to come to the city to improve the city. It's our planning department that put out a request of proposal to have building bought and redeveloped. They need top of the line employee, very qualified. We just lost Mr. Ben Murphy, who was wonderful. Again, pay people more. And also a legal department. We need a very good, top-notch legal department because the board, the city council, the commission need to have that information to know what they need to do. Thank you.
Mr. Graney.
Yes, I'd like to reiterate that it's the DPW that probably needs the most assistance. It affects everybody in the city. It affects everybody's quality of life, whether it comes to trash pickup or building maintenance, whatever. And they are working at this point 10 people short, according to the DPW commissioner last night that spoke at the Finance Committee meeting. We are 10 people working short, and these are our positions that are sorely needed, that we need to fill to improve the quality of life in our community. Thank you.
Mr. Jordan.
Thank you. Again, one of the reasons I'm seeking to come back to the City Council is because I feel that we really need much better fiscal management of the community, particularly as I've seen at budget time over the last 4 years. First of all, I want to highlight an important program that started when I was City Council President, which was the receivership program. Nothing kills a neighborhood more than when somebody has a dilapidated building next to their home. It's discouraging to the entire neighborhood. That should not be allowed. Springfield has really excelled with the receivership program. It's something we started, and we need significant additional resources for dealing with dilapidated buildings and dilapidated homes, bringing in receivers and getting them on the books. The other thing is absolutely, all the other candidates are right about the DPW. We need dramatically more resources and seeking state and local aid assistance under Chapter 90 and otherwise to get these roads fixed. Holyoke is getting shortchanged considerably on our local aid, and we need to address that immediately. Thank you.
Okay, I have the next question. And we'll start with Mr. Leahy. Climate change is a very current topic. It's multinational in scope. It's an extremely complex issue. What more can Holyoke do to address the climate crisis?
Well, I think maybe help out the League of Women Voters. Maybe back the S9 vote that's been sitting in the Senate for what, over 5-6 months now. I'm not exactly sure, but that's passed the climate bill. Maybe get that done. Maybe do what I did. I went out and bought an electric car. So I'm trying to improve my carbon footprint. I'm driving around the city of Holyoke in an electric car. There's a lot of things we can be doing and a lot of things we should be doing, and I think we're going to continue.
Mr. Maldonado, Velez.
Yeah, I just first want to say thank you for finishing off that question with the term climate crisis, because I believe we're beyond just climate change, we're in an actual crisis. Just recently we had climate refugees from Puerto Rico coming here because of Hurricane Maria. So I think one of the first things that we need to do is have an actual plan. The longer that we avoid the question of having to convert into zero emission, the longer we are avoiding the reality that we have to get there. There's cities, communities around us that are looking for a zero carbon emission goal by 2030, and we're over here still talking about gas and building pipelines. So we need to really start thinking of the future and building infrastructure that is not going to become obsolete within the next couple decades.
Thank you, Mr. Mcgivern.
Thank you, Lee. We have to first recognize that the climate crisis, the issue itself is for real. And I think once we accept that, then I think not just the city of Holyoke, but this entire country, and eventually when this country stands up, the entire world is going to recognize it far better, that we need to take the steps now to protect the next generation and the next generation. But we also got to promote who we are and what we've done so far and make and enhance upon it. We are a green city. We were built on the river. We first to see a hydro wheel, installed in the dam, canal systems that allowed for hydro wheels to be installed in manufacturing buildings. We have a gas and electric department that promotes solar energy. We have a number of different opportunities. We have more conservation land per capita in the city of Holyoke than any other community in the Commonwealth. Just start with the Mount Tom Reservation and the footprint there. We do our job, but we don't promote that. We have to talk more about being a green community.
Thank you. Ms. Murphy Ramboletti.
Thank you. As counselors, we can't cure climate change, but we can take steps that are needed to make sure that we as a city are actively and proactively addressing this and how it impacts us as a municipality. That means we need to be supportive of grant opportunities that will allow us to study certain plans to make sure that we are on track to become, completely green. We're very lucky to have the Holyoke Gas and Electric and a public utility service, and we need to support them in their efforts to try and find a solution to the current gas moratorium. And we also, as city councilors, need to be proactive and educated when things come before us as a body. And that means, really making sure that we're efficient and we're addressing these issues, and that it doesn't take 6 months to get something passed or approved by the council. Thank you.
Mr. Rivera.
I also echo the Green City narrative, right? It's not narrative, it's technically what it is. We are one of the greenest cities in the country. It's ironic that the founders of Holyoke, building the first pre-industrial or designed city, used a green utility. They used water to energize most of the mills, which overall benefits us as a community, giving us cheaper electrical prices and all the other extra stuff. Overall, though, moving forward, what we should do to be proactive is to try to find ways to incentivize businesses that are moving into the community, or businesses that are already here that are trying to transfer to electricity, or if not, families and homes that are doing the same. If we can't get new gas, then we have to try to find a new way. Fighting for the gas that we can't get is not going to get us anywhere, and that's going to continue to keep us stagnant as a community. So for me, it's moving forward.
Mr. Tolman.
Thank you. We are a green city, and I think it's important that we look to the future and how we can make things better. We have the electric cars. We have bike lanes now in several of our areas of the city. We have the solar going up all over the city. You can see them in different areas of the city, and I think that's important for the future. We've seen the storms and the hurricanes and the tornadoes that we've had in our community that is caused by what's happened as the climate is changing. And it's important that we as the city, that we step up and our leaders in that. How can we conserve? How can we conserve in our homes? How can we conserve in our buildings, our city buildings, our apartment blocks, to make it so we can have that available gas for businesses coming into our community? Because right now we don't have the capacity to bring in any businesses with gas. We have to use propane. So how can we make it better for us in the future? I think all of us have to conserve more each and every day. Thank you.
Mr. Chattel.
Yes, thank you very much. So we have a great G&E here in the city of Holyoke. I believe it's the best one there is. So them promoting the city with the solar, I think, is very important. Also, our dam here in Holyoke, utilizing that in our great reservoirs. So that's a few things. I'm learning more about that, but I believe with our G&E working here, that's the way to go. Thank you.
Ms. Ferrario.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Tessa and Mark, to remind us what a great company Holyoke Gas and Electric is. And my experience of them has been that it's very efficient. So we can count on them bringing us forth. Holyoke is naturally already set up to be a green city. We have a lot of green lungs in the form of park. We just acquired, thank you to CPA, 14 more acres for Scott's Tower. Unfortunately, I want to remind everybody the City Council stopped a grant from the Bar Foundation for $250,000 that we could have gotten to investigate more new technology. The Northeast gas pipeline, as of now, was stopped by a federal judge. So we cannot lift the gas moratorium. We have to go forward with new technology. But also, again, I want to acknowledge that there's much richness here.
Mr. Graney.
Yes, we have to encourage solar power, utilize the Holyoke Water Power Company, the great water that we have flowing over the dam. But I must say that because there is a gas moratorium in Holyoke, it has created a major problem. A lot of businesses have not decided to come into Holyoke, and what's happening is the new homes that are here are burning propane. Propane is one of the dirtiest fuels that you can possibly use. This is detrimental to the environment. We need to lift the gas moratorium in Holyoke and work with natural gas, along with solar power, along with water power, to utilize our strengths to make the climate change in Holyoke a greener city. Thank you.
Mr. Jourdain.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to say I have a long track record of being very supportive of green energy. I think one of my most early in my career, a very controversial vote, doesn't seem controversial at this time at all, is the acquisition of the Holyoke Dam. I voted to do that at the time. That was viewed by many almost like some people would view the earth being flat. So I would just say now we just take these things for granted, but we've reduced water consumption by half over the last 20 years. We've expanded solar energy. Joe mentioned about the massive expansions of conservation land that Holyoke has done. These are all great things, and I support all those. However, I do not support the radical initiatives, which is to put the backs on the backs of the taxpayers of Holyoke, all of these initiatives and costs that need to be funded by Washington and Boston. Things like extreme measures like trying to take away your natural gas. We need to support the pipeline in conjunction with the G&E and Eversource to allow that expansion here in the city of Holyoke.
Thank you. Ms. Keat.
First, I'd like to echo what some of the other candidates have said, that Holyoke is a very green city, and our gas and electric is very forward-thinking. The climate crisis is here. You know, we need to create an action plan. What are we going to do when these crises arise? Holyoke being as green as we are, we have the right mix. And I think that we need to continue investing in what's working for us. We have the hydroelectric dam. We've got the solar panels. We're on the road to becoming carbon neutral, and I think that we'll get there. We do need to invest in our electrical grid. The fact that we do have the gas moratorium does put us in a little bit of a bind. And so I think that because we're kind of at a standstill on the gas, we do need to think about other ways of bringing in the electric. So expanding our current electric grid to take on those new customers that would go to propane and convince them to stick with the electric, considering that our rate is one of the lowest in Massachusetts, I think would be wonderful.
All right, question 6 belongs to Dan Crowley. And Dan, we will start with Mr. Maldonado Velez.
The city has seen its share of crime and street violence in recent years, and many express concern about it as a quality of life issue. What role can an at-large councilor play in addressing this issue, and how would you if elected?
So it goes back to my platform, which is technology, infrastructure, and unity, because those three things I think of as preventative measures to deal with things like crime and all the issues that we have the city faces. And what I mean by that is during the pandemic last year, there was what I saw in my community was this new way of doing things where people were given the resources to be able to pay their rent, that were able to put food on their table, that were able to communicate with each other. And what I got from that pandemic is that if the community is given the resources to do things, to open new businesses, to get educated or new whatever it is, then the crime goes down. You know, recently the crime has ticked up, but what also has happened? The resources have become less. We're going back to that mentality of we're scrambling for crumbs, when in reality, this is a rich country. We're not, and we can do it.
Mr. Mcgivern.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Lee. I work in the Holyoke District Court as a probation officer. I have an associate's degree in law enforcement and a bachelor's degree in social science. It's kind of a cross between being a police officer and a social worker. I end up being a probation officer, which, even though we're part of the law enforcement community, it seems to be the way people look at us. Crime, and the key word in this question to me was violence, has to be zero tolerance in any community. We have gang warfare in the city of Holyoke that isn't about the gangs fighting each other. It's about the gangs fighting each other for turf over where their illegal drugs are going to be sold. That type of violence and that type of crime we need to snuff out. Our police department has done a fairly good job at that. We need to keep the resources there so that we can continue to stamp out violent crime in this city.
Ms. Murphy Ramboletti.
Thank you. I believe as city councilors, we should have open lines of communication with the Holyoke Police Department. We should be continuing the process of sharing the different types of arrests that are made, so people really understand the reality of what's happening in our community. I believe in community policing, and I used to live downtown on High Street, and when you'd see police officers on the streets, it just gave the community a different feel. So I think we really need to support some of those efforts and really make sure that our police officers are properly trained and have the support that they need, but also that we are really, making our communities more vibrant and getting, residents to feel some ownership over their neighborhoods, because when things are vibrant, when there's restaurants, when there's great opportunities, that's when crime starts to decrease. So thank you.
Mr. Rivera.
So for me, this is a little more personal. I myself am an ex-felon. I served 5 years in prison, for selling drugs when I was 20 years old. I came out in 2012. I went to HEC, UMass, and then the University of Massachusetts now to get my master's in public policy administration. As an ex-felon, I faced a variety of barriers to try to be successful and reach goals that are technically not for people like me, right? So as a city council, I believe that we should be out there meeting the people where they're at, increasing investment in youth programming and in education, helping out Mass Hire, helping out the Holyoke Safe Neighborhood Initiative, and assisting the school department with issues, and trying to invest more in social emotional wellness within the school district. Overall, our community is lacking with connection with the police and with our city council.
Mr. Talmott.
Thank you. That's a very important question. The crime and the issues that we face as a city is something that we have to take care of. Supporting our police in whatever way we can. I'm a member of the Finance Committee. We have several grants that come in to help the police department, whether it's people on the street, the opioid crisis. It's important that we keep them on the street and available to the public. A lot of times people say something's happened on my area, my street, there's nobody around when you need them. I think it's trying to get the police out there, not micromanage, but try to get people throughout the city. My first term in office, I took a ride-along with 2 officers. And to really see what they go through on a daily basis, I think it's important for any individual as elected official to see what they have to deal with on a daily basis. We have problems with road rage, we have problems with dirt bikes. We have to support our police department. We have to find ways to put the police out there. Community policing is an important way, and I think bike patrols would also be important to try to get that back in force out on our community. Thank you.
Mr. Chartel.
Yes, so the police really needs to be supported here in the city of Holyoke. What I want to do, is one of my things I want to do if I'm on a council, have meetings with the police so they feel safe with the public. Let the public be able to have meetings in every single ward with the police, so they feel comfortable with the police. I really believe that's very important. And that's about it. Thank you.
Ms. Ferrario.
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Rivera, for reminding us that it's very important to prevent kids from getting into bad company and crime. I really believe, and among many things, I'm also a real estate agent, and I really believe that partially crime can be solved with improving the infrastructure, have more lights, keep the park more clean. I also, like Tessa says, have a communication with the police department as city councilor, but also have the police department take care of just everyday law enforcement, parking tickets, idling, that kind of stuff, and having police officer be truly part of the community. So it's not the community that needs to get familiar with the police officer, it's the police officer that need to be comfortable with the community. And I'm a big advocate of multi-class living. The middle class, the moment the middle class arrives, you win.
Thank you, Ms. Ferraro. Mr. Graney.
Well, oftentimes, much of the crime that's committed in Holyoke is not committed by Hoyokers. But not to belabor the point, I believe education is the most important factor to solve the crime problem. We need to continue, as I have, to support the Holyoke Boys and Girls Club, homework programs, after-school programs that would keep the youth occupied, youth sports programs like youth soccer, youth football, support places like the Volleyball Hall of Fame, make sure that our youngsters will have tours to these facilities to see some of the more prominent figures in that sport. And I believe that the Holyoke Public School System should play a major, major role in the youth to help prevent crime before it begins. Thank you.
Mr. Jordan.
Thank you. I have been an outstanding supporter of police and fire services in this community. No question, anybody that knows me knows I am a law and order candidate. First thing and foremost, I would say there's two ends of this. One is with the police, we need to have and let them know confidently, we support you, we have your back. Go out there and do your job. Don't let politics get over you doing your job. The other hand of that comes a civic responsibility of transparency. That's why I answered affirmatively on making sure that there's accountability to our police department. Anybody that has that much authority needs to be accountable to the public. Everything that they do should be transparent to the public, and that we build these connections between the citizens and their police department. But the citizens have spoken on a number of issues. We need to start enforcing the laws in this community around panhandling. Nothing happens. You're allowed to go out into the street and intersections. We have a needle exchange program that was supposed to be one-for-one needle exchange. Didn't happen. Those are the type of rules and laws we need to start enforcing in this community. Thank you.
Ms. Keat.
I'd like to start by saying I too support the Holyoke Police Department. My father was a proud 30-plus year veteran. He retired with badge number 1. He was very proud of that. I currently serve on the Community Police Relations Board with the city, so we're actively working on some of the issues that we've been discussing up here today. But I do agree with Mr. Graney as far as education. We need to invest in our kids. We need to invest in children's programs. We need to invest in social programs and opportunities. Poverty and crime go hand in hand. So unless we're willing to invest to stop the flow of people getting to that end, then we need to work on that. Thank you.
Mr. Leahy.
Yes, thank you. So I think that what we need to do is continue getting our children educated. I have served as a volunteer on the Boys and Girls Club for over 20 years, making sure that our youth feel loved, have a place to go. A lot of the times these people are coming there and they don't have homes. They just don't feel loved. They don't get any meals. So we have to make sure that the children feel loved. And as somebody else said, the majority of the people that are getting arrested in the city of Holyoke come from outside Holyoke. Now let's think, what's the common denominator? Why are they coming into the city? Well, we got the needle exchange program, and that's not one-for-one. People get handfuls for every one they bring in. And what happens then? A lot of times, they end up in parks. My daughter went to Mount Del Rosa and couldn't play at recess outside because there's needles everywhere. Luckily, that's cleaned up because of the school. It's a fantastic school. But we have to work on zero. If it's a violent crime, as somebody else said, put them in jail.
Thank you. All right, we're down to the last question before closing arguments. That will go to Dan Crowley because I had the 5 questions on the lightning round. Fair is fair. But we will be short of time, so I'm asking people to think 20 seconds. I mean, a lightning round here, but with a few more seconds. You okay, Dan?
The city's been one of the most active municipalities in the state welcoming the cannabis industry. Do you support the growth of this industry in the city and the pace with which it's gained a foothold, and why?
And that's Mr. Mcgivern.
Thank you. It's an excellent question. I do support the industry like I support any industry. I think the state regulates cannabis as best as any state can in this country. I believe it's a good industry that brings in tax dollars, jobs, job opportunities, and I think we should look at it like that, control where the dispensaries are, but work with them as economic development.
Thank you. Ms. Murphy Ramboletti.
Yes, I am very in favor of the cannabis industry and the economic opportunities it can provide for our city and our residents. What I think we should look at is the zoning regulations that the City Council has passed for cannabis businesses, because it's very restrictive and eventually it's going to limit our opportunities. So thank you.
Mr. Rivera.
I'm also for the cannabis industry, I guess the only thing I would have is growing up in the flats or in the lower wards where they are all housed. I would like to see some of the tax dollars going in that direction, because we house most of the cannabis industry.
Mr. Tallman.
Thank you. Very much in support of the cannabis industry here in Holyoke. It's taken some of our old buildings, our old mill buildings, and really put some life into them. A big investment. It's provided jobs. Just have to look at some of the problems they're having with the ordinance committee about trying to get a distance. You know, how far should the cannabis business be next to a school or a building? I think it's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chattel.
Okay, yes, so originally I was against it, but the majority of the citizens of Holyoke did want it, so I do go with that. And it is a taxpayer in the city of Holyoke. I'm all in favor of medical marijuana. And, you know, just an overabundance, I think, can get out of hand. We just need to limit it, I believe, for other tax businesses in the city to come in. Thank you.
Ms. Ferrario.
The cannabis industry I support because it's a clean agricultural industry. I'm concerned about supply and demand, because as other states in the country pick up, I'm concerned that we have too many of these businesses, and I want to see more local employment.
Mr. Graney.
I have mixed emotions about the cannabis industry. Obviously, I support medicinal marijuana, medical marijuana. However, it is a gateway drug, and it could cause some problems. The long-term data is not in on the marijuana industry yet. Data from Washington, data from Colorado of the cause and effects. That's why I have an ordinance in the City Council to bring in the medical personnel from Bay State and Holyoke Hospital to discuss the issue. Thank you.
Mr. Jourdain.
Thank you. I support allowing cannabis to be manufactured here with the regulations that we have put in place. However, I will say I am very concerned about them not following regulations like we have for the casinos, that you can give unlimited campaign contributions from these executives to city councilors, especially as you have business pending before the city council, as well as our mayoral candidates. That needs to stop.
Ms. Keat.
I do support the cannabis industry, the economic opportunities you just can't turn down for our city. The fact that they're reusing some of our old mill buildings, it's perfect for that industry. I do like how our city council has been handling with some of the stipulations, hiring Holyoke residents. But I do agree with Ms. Murphy Ramboletti that we do need to consider rezoning. It shouldn't all be downtown.
Mr. Leahy.
Yes, thank you. At first, I was against it until I sat down with a gentleman named Peter who owns GTI, and he went over a lot of interesting facts, great facts. Then it's legal, so what better place than downtown? You have beautiful buildings that once housed paper mills. It's right out. You can use the canals. Yes, I'm for it.
And Mr. Maldonado, Velez.
Yeah, so I'm for the cannabis industry and all the different ways that it can manifest itself in our city. I do believe there's an important part of it, and it is to make sure that we are supporting those that were negatively impacted by the war on drugs, particularly in our city. So making sure that they have opportunities within this industry and an easier access point for them.
Okay, thank you very much. We have gone through the 7 questions, and now we are lining up for our closing statements. You have 2 minutes for your closing statement, and we are going to start with Mr. Tallman.
Thank you, and thanks again for the League of Women Voters out of Northampton and the Hampshire Gazette putting this together. I first of all want to thank all my colleagues here on the stage. Anybody that wants to get involved in politics, anybody here knows it's not an easy thing. And I really want to commend everybody that stepped up to run for public office. I'm really grateful for the 23 years that the citizens of Holyoke have given me to work in city government. You know, today I'm very fortunate and grateful for the things I have in my life. I look at the people in the city of Holyoke as I go door to door and see the issues that people are having, whether it's in the Flats or it's in Springdale or Oakdale or the Highlands. And a lot of it has to do with quality of life issues. You know, and it's something that I've always counted myself in doing, is trying to work for the residents, because the community, the citizens of Holyoke, are the ones that pay our salary. You know, the citizens of the Holyoke are the ones that need to contact somebody to leave a message on our phone or see us in the supermarket that have an issue. And I think when they have some kind of an issue or a problem, they want to get to us and say, hey, how can you solve this? You know, I'm willing to do that. You know, a lot of times they come home and you got a message or two on the machine, you say, oh, I'll get it later. I think it's important to get right back to that person, whether you can handle the situation or not. You know, they took the time to call you about something, and I think it's important for us to get back to that person if we can help them. If we can't, we let them know that. We try to find the answer for them. You know, being in politics is really a rewarding job, you know, to make differences, to see what we can do in our community. I'm really looking forward to the next couple of weeks of going door to door the community of Holyoke. I haven't done a lot of campaigning, really, and I really want to get out there throughout each area of the city. And I really humbly ask for your support on November 2nd. Vote Tallman on November 2nd. Thank you very much.
Mr. Rivera.
Again, my name is Israel Rivera. I'm running for City Council at large. I want to thank the League of Women Voters, the Gazette, and all my fellow colleagues too as well that are up here for taking the time to join me, right, during the campaign. For me, this is kind of surreal, right? I get to sit up here with some people that I've seen throughout my life in Holyoke in different roles. And I am kind of dumbfounded that I have the opportunity to be here, especially the fact that I come from a very different background. So if I'm elected or when I'm elected, I plan to work hard on getting the people out. And what I mean by getting the people out is getting the people involved and trying to develop different groups and different committees that are gonna be able to tackle some of these issues that we have that are mostly all quality of life issues. So with regards to that, I mean substance abuse, I mean homelessness, I mean crime. If we all come together as a council that comes out versus just writing policy and ordinances, we can come together and bring the people together as Holyoke should represent itself. Over the last several years, since I've been out of prison, I've been paying attention to local politics, and it kind of feels like we've been at a standstill for a very long time. The council, for me, has always been at war with Room 1 and Room 1 with the council, vice versa. We've been stagnant in very different places that we should not be stagnant. This is a whole bunch of bureaucracy that's causing our city to waste tax dollars unnecessarily. So this is one of the reasons why I'm running. I'm trying to bring diversity, I'm trying to bring a different perspective, and I'm gonna be out there actually creating and doing the people's work.
Ms. Murphy Ramboletti.
I'd like to echo everyone's statements tonight and just thank everyone who helped put this event on. And for all of you who are listening and watching from home, I appreciate it. I decided to run for city council this year because I have spent, the last decade working for and within our city. And I've learned a lot about the things that we do well. And I've also learned about how a dysfunctional city council can impact day-to-day city services. And I really believe that Holyoke deserves a city council that will not waste time with political grandstanding and talking points, and really deserves a city council that will put the work in, that will do their research, that will trust city employees and work with them instead of against them, because that is what really impacts your day-to-day services. I am a person who I believe can get along with just about anyone, and I think that's really important. I know that not everyone will always agree, but I think we need to look beyond ego and personalities and remember why we are all here. No one takes the leap to run for government because they don't love where they live. And that's why I'm running. I love this city, I love its potential, and I believe that we deserve to have an inclusive and efficient government that gives 110% to its residents. So I will commit to listening and communication and really bringing back professionalism to our city. It's time for new voices at the table. It's time for new ideas, and it's time for people to understand what their services are that they're being provided. And so thank you very much. Check out my website, tessaforholyoke.com.
Mr. Mcgivern.
Thank you, Lee. We all up here in our opening remarks took the second to thank the sponsors and the opportunity for this forum this evening, and I think we meant that sincerely. In my closing remarks, I'd like to take a second to thank the candidates, the 10 candidates that are on stage with myself here. I think I talked about the 42 years experience I had, which means I am about to partake in the 21st, 22nd election for myself in the campaign. And that campaign is very important to me. Government is about our elections. And tonight, the voters of Holyoke have heard from 11 people who sincerely brought qualifications to the table, answered the good questions by our moderator, and answered sincerely and deeply into what they could bring as an elected official. And I think that makes our strong election makes our government stronger. And I would look forward to serving with any individual up here. I talked about how I approach government. My record is out there. On the issues, I'll be honest with you, I've made mistakes over the years, but I've always studied an issue before I came to a yay or nay vote, and that's important. There are 3 sides to every issue, and we have to work it out and find common ground. That's the way I do business. My biography is, thank God for family. My biography is on the website, Mcgivern for Holyoke, which daughter number 1 puts together. Daughter number 2 does the Facebook, which is designed to share information a little bit more quickly. Our message is out there. Good government brings good service. Good government makes this great and legendary city even better to live in, and for my lucky self, even better to work in. So I look forward to 1 of 6 votes. I'm not running against anybody. I just want 1 of your 6 votes, and I thank you in advance.
Mr. Maldonado, Velez.
So I just want to say, again, thank you to the candidates, to everyone that has sponsored this forum. I believe it's important, and part of the reason why I'm running is to make sure that the residents and citizens of Holyoke have as much information as possible for when they go in on Tuesday, November 2nd to cast their ballot, or early voting, or mail-in voting. I just want to repeat my platform real quick, which is technology, infrastructure, and unity. And someone asked me the other day, is that all you care about? And the way I'm approaching this is, the reality is it's a 2-year term. There's only so much that we can do in 2 years. So when I think of that platform, I think that is a foundation and what we can accomplish, whether it be upgrading our garbage trucks, like I mentioned earlier, really streamlining our processes and whatnot, and creating more opportunities for the community to come together, and also being out there door knocking. One of my favorite things that has happened during campaigning is that I haven't gone to doors and told them what the issues are. I've asked the people of Holyoke what they believe the issues are, because I think that's the very first step in order for us to move ahead as a city, is to meet people where they're at and ask them, what is it that they care about? How do you want to be involved more in the community, and what can we do together? I believe everything intersects. Everything is connected to something. So whether it be schools, that's great, we can have great schools, but if they're going out to the community with a crumbling infrastructure, or the opioid crisis that we're dealing with in downtown, that's a problem. So we need to really take a holistic approach to what we do at the City Council, and really trust our people. My campaign slogan is not me, nosotros, because this is bigger than me. This is bigger than November 2nd. This is looking forward, looking for 2023, looking for all forward elections, and making sure that, one, I'm not the one of 2 Latinos on a candidates of 11 when we have a 58% Latinos in our city. So there's more deeper, and I hope to have more conversations with everyone. MaldonadoVelez.com, and I hope to talk to all you all soon.
Thank you. Mr. Leahy.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I want to say congratulations for the League of Women Voters for celebrating their 101st year. Last year was 100 years, and I read all about it in some good articles that happened in the Gazette and whatnot. But you guys are doing a fantastic job, so I just wanted to give you props where props are deserved. My name is James Leahy. I'm running for re-election, and I greatly would ask every person, every voter, to vote for me. My name's fifth on the ballot. I think the reason why I should go back, if you guys let me to, is because of the homework I do, the due diligence. I always study the issues. I go out in the street. You keep hearing quality of life issues. As my daughter Paige told me, people are always talking about the quality of life, but they're kind of baseless words. It's kind of like the Greta Thunberg, blah, 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 blah. But I actually go out there and I do the hard work. I do the quality of life issues. So thank you, Paige, for telling me that. I also, my daughter Caroline, it's going to be her first election where she's able to cast a ballot for me. And she's excited about that. And she said, Dad, I would have voted for you because you're my dad. More importantly, I see how hard you work. I see how hard you volunteer in the community. I'm going to tear up thinking about it. It meant a lot to me. And I also want to thank my son, Brendan. He's a hard worker, and he allows me to continue going out and helping the people of Holyoke. And of course, my wife. My wife's been there for me, and she helps me with a lot of different policy things. So I just want to appreciate all of the people that are behind me, especially my mom, Mary Ellen Leahy, my father, Thomas. They gave me the ability to run when I was in my early 20s. More importantly, I just want to say thank you to all the voters and all the constituents. Whether you agree with my issues or you don't agree with my issues, I always feel like you're supporting me, and that means a lot to me. So having said all that, I wish this forum was translated tonight, and I also hope that you vote for James Leahy, start at the fifth name, and you can work around from there. Thank you.
Ms. Keith.
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and the Daily Hampshire Gazette again, and the Holyoke media for being here with us, all of the candidates. Every single one of us up here brings something to the table. We all bring different things, different, perspectives. For me, I've been a lifelong Holyoker. I have deep roots here in the community. I chose to stay after graduating from Holyoke High School. I chose to raise my family here. I am the only mom up here on the stage. Again, there's 11 candidates total, only 3 women, and only one of us is a mother. So again, representation matters. My household is actually racially mixed and multi-generational. I'm comfortable in the flats, and I'm comfortable in the fruit bowl. So I'm looking to cooperate with people and bridge the gaps that exist. I'm looking to bring my education, my experience, and my community commitment to the city of Holyoke as a whole. So I would love to have one of your 6 votes. If you want more information about me and my platform, feel free to visit my website. It's www.jenforholyoke.com. I am number 11 on the ballot, so that tells you that they saved the best for last.
Mr. Jourdain.
Thank you. It's really, again, a pleasure to be with everyone this evening, my candidates, with the sponsors, and obviously to the folks at home. This is an important election. Really, we have a very important mayoral election, and I'm glad that we're taking some time to focus on the city council elections here this evening. The reason I'm running this evening is the same reason I ran previously. I want Holyoke to be a place that can give everybody the same opportunity that I had in this community. I grew up the son of a single mom, dirt poor, living in the city of Holyoke in an apartment block. We thought we died and went to heaven when we moved into Bowdoin Village. I was blessed with an amazing family, work ethic, commitment to the right things: God, family, country. I was blessed with an amazing faith. I thank God every day for everything that I ever had. I will continue to do that to the day I take my last breath. I'm in this race for all the right reasons. Some people think I'm crazy to come back, but I'm doing it because I love this city, and we need to be moving in a stronger direction. I'm qualified. That's the only reason you should ever vote for any candidate, because they make sense, common sense, and that they're qualified. And I am qualified. I've served for 27 years in state and municipal government, 24 of which here on the Holyoke City Council. The last 3 years, I've been a member and chair of the Water Commission, which is probably singularly one of the best-run departments in the entire city of Holyoke. Served 6 years as president of the city council. I work unbelievably hard in this position. No one will outwork me. I listen to people. I do what the voters ask me to do. I research issues. I give intelligent responses. And it's for those reasons that you should vote for me, hopefully, on November 2nd for one of your 6 votes. And I would be honored if you would also take a look at my website, kevinjourdain.com, for more details. Thank you so much.
Mr. Graney?
Yes, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, the Hampshire Gazette, and welcome them to Holyoke because they are providing us with a good read, and especially Holyoke Media because these are the people, Natalie and Scott, who are presenting this to the public so that they can see us. To say a little bit about myself, I have 4 children. All grew up in Holyoke, 4 grandchildren, ranging from age of 11 to 18, one who is now a freshman at DePaul University in Chicago. They keep me grounded. My wife of 52 years keeps me grounded. The votes that we take on the city council are critical. They're critical to the people of Holyoke. They're critical to their quality of life. I spent 35 years as an educator speaking with the youth in Holyoke. And every day I visit the senior center in Holyoke speaking to seniors. I have military service. I served in the United States Marine Corps. I have served on the school committee for 6 years as a member of the finance committee. I also have 6 years experience, or going on 6 years, on the city council and served on several committees there. I'm a lifelong resident of Holyoke. I love this community. I feel that we need to continue on a path to progress. We need to improve our city. We have many things that are going on in the city that we can improve on, and I would like to continue to move so I would appreciate your support on November 2nd. Howie Graney, on the ballot. Please give me a shot to continue to serve, because I believe service to community is a calling, not a job or a duty. It's a calling. Thank you very much.
Ms. Ferrari?
Yes, thank you to the League of Women Voters. Spoiler alert. As I said, I know, if you know, I ran my campaign on the basis that Holyoke needs good government. Everybody tonight sounded pretty good. I would like to remind the voter that just in the last couple of years, right now, the land around Whitney Reservoir is threatened to be developed. The city council passed a permit to put a Dunkin' Donuts on the mountain on East Hampton Road, which is extremely dangerous and an ecological catastrophe. The city council accelerated the destruction of a magnificent modernist monument, Lynch School, that was assessed at $12 million to authorize the construction of a strip mall that will be worth $5 million and depreciate 20% every year. It took an hour and a half for City Council to pass, to change Columbus Day to Indigenous People Day after many hours, after many years of their request to be put forth. They couldn't get our community to unite to find the solution to build good new school or new schools. I heard a lot, yes, we need jobs, but we have to acknowledge all of the people, middle class and upper middle class, that came here and they give to the community, bring guys salary. We need to acknowledge that houses value have never been so high. And it's not a bubble. We are a very, very attractive community. Money is coming here. Citizens are willing to serve. Holyoke deserves good government. Thank you.
Mr. Shuttell?
Okay, thank you again for the League of Women Voters for the sponsor and for Holyoke Media. Really appreciate it. So I watch Holyoke Media every single city council meeting, and I believe that's important that the city of Holyoke is being reached so we can be informed of the meetings. So I would like to thank every single candidate up here too. And I really would like to thank all 4 city councilors that are presently up here for their long-term service of Holyoke. Every single person up here, their heart is in Holyoke. We all love Holyoke, whether we disagree or agree on issues. So a few things I'm running on. One, I'd like to lift the gas moratorium. To support the G&E, I think that's very important to this city for businesses and our residents. Also, supporting our public safety, police, fire, EMT, but also do it in a financial correct way. And another, so yeah, that's about it there. I'd like to thank, every single person that's been involved in my campaign. It's been a true pleasure. Every person that signed my papers to get on the ballot is a first-timer. Every person I asked said yes, so I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. And meeting many of these candidates up here, which I haven't met before I started this run for office, I think I became some friends with some of them, even if we disagree on issues, so that's important. And one thing I will do is represent the whole city of Holyoke, all 7 wards. And most importantly, I'll never take a vote blind. I'll listen to the residents. And if I don't know the subject, I'll research it 100% before I cast my vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to close this evening by thanking all the candidates for your very, very thoughtful answers to our questions and for participating in the democratic process. I would also like to thank Holyoke Public Schools for allowing us to film this event in the Holyoke High School auditorium, Lee Bona for serving as our moderator, Dan Crowley for representing the Daily Hampshire Gazette, and Scott McPherson and Natalia of Holyoke Media for facilitating the recording of this event. And to all of you who are watching us this evening or anytime after this evening, please remember to vote on November 2nd. For information on where to vote in your particular wards, you can visit the website of Holyoke's Registrar of Voters. The polls will be open on Election Day from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And if you wish to vote by mail, you must submit your absentee ballot application by October 27th. Thank you and good night.